What are some things you'd only know by growing up poor? How to keep a 7-year-old from knowing she's poor. My mom used to take my brother and I to the soup kitchen every week to volunteer. We must always be kind to those less fortunate. She'd say. Then, after volunteering, "Oh, it's so late and I don't feel like cooking. Let's just eat here while we're here." This speaks volumes to me. When my sister and I were growing up before the age of 10, we were pretty bad off. Though we never knew it. Our parents were so good at not cluing us into it that we didn't even know until we were adults. We lived in rural Texas. And a couple times a week, my dad would come in and say to us, "I noticed a lot of people littering on the way home. We should go do our part to keep our community beautiful and clean." So we would go walk up and down the highway picking up cans and glass bottles. We would then take them to the recycling yard where we got to watch the cool machine shoot the cans at the big pile of crushed cans. I later found out we did that because we couldn't afford basic necessities. And we were collecting recyclables, which the yard paid for by the pound at the time, so we could go buy a gallon of milk, eggs, and bread. My parents are my role models now. And I only hope I have been half as good a parent to my kids as my parents were to me. When someone breaks into your house but doesn't take anything. Happened once. Still think it's funny. You develop an appreciation for hand-me-down clothes when they come your way. IDK about in other states, but in MN they can't shut your power off during the winter because of the danger of someone freezing to death in their house. So that was a good time to try to catch up on some other bills you are way behind on too. Not to ask their parents for stuff. I truly had no idea until I was in my junior year of high school taking child development that Head Start was a program created for children from homes of low income. I simply thought it was a place for me to get a head start as a kid. I still remember my teacher saying verbatim, "No honey. Your family was just poor." In front of the whole class. Edit. RIP my inbox. Ha. What hunger really is. I remember waiting for my dad's payday for the grocery shopping trip and being absolutely ravenous when the food got there. How important ingenuity becomes to eat. Anything shiny on the ground might be a coin. How to cook with the government surplus cheese. Food stamp paper change. When I was a kid, if you used food stamps they would give back the change in food stamp form. My mom was too proud to publicly use them, so she would make up a reason to leave and I would have to pay using them. I was 11 or so. She did it every time. I had to learn to keep my head up. Pizza nights are the best birthday present you could ever ducking get. A whole pizza. Ordered exactly how you like it. And you get to have more than one slice. Not being able to do extracurriculars. I wanted to be in orchestra and I wanted to play soccer, but we couldn't afford it, so I was told no. Couldn't afford the uniforms or the gas to get me to practice. And definitely couldn't afford a violin. I ended up moving to a largely upper middle class area for college. First boyfriend was rich. He played 9 instruments and played soccer and went skiing since age 6. He voiced that he thought I was lazy and untalented for not having done at least a sport or learned something like guitar. I explained that we couldn't afford it, but that didn't seem to register. He tried to give me his old violin at one point so I could learn, and his mother pretty much ripped it out of my hands. Government cheese. Doing your laundry in a bathtub using only cold water. BC the gas was shut off. Trying to spend the night at your friend's house. BC they had food and a warm room. Thanks Nikki. Loving going to school because you could at least eat there. Trips to Goodwill for new clothes. Showers at school because at least 3 water was warm. Being made fun of because you smelled like kerosene. Having lice and no one doing anything about it. Going to school with bruises. BC your parents took their shitty decisions out in you. I'm so grateful to a handful of people that saw potential in me. I went to college. Got a great job. And broke the cycle. Thanks Tom and Tony. That sometimes your parents sacrifice everything they have, including their sanity, just to see you happy. And you only learn later in life the soul-crushing existence of poverty. Then you wonder how they managed to do so much with so little. Outdated technology. When I started college, one of my professors asked if anyone in our class remembered how you changed a channel on the TV before remote controls. I was the only person in the room who remembered turning dials and adjusting rabbit ears despite being one of the youngest students in the class. Because my family had a TV from the 70s until 1995. Same sort of thing with computers, phones, etc. If we had it at all. We got something much later than anyone else, after it got cheaper, and bought used. I got my first computer in 1999. It had Windows 3.1 and that was what I used until I was able to use my financial aid to get a new PC tower for college. How good a buttered tortilla is. The feeling of not eating for a day or sometimes days. If you send a bad check to the utilities company on a Friday, you have power for the weekend. Cockroaches are killed by baking soda. You can live on strawberry powder, Nesquik and water for 3 days. My mom could somehow cook 2 chickens on a Sunday and feed 6 people all week. Towards the end it was more just corn chowder cooked in chicken stock. But it was dinner. Also we kept a garden. You didn't work the garden. You didn't eat. Sit down on a summer evening. Better have a bowl in your lap and be shelling, stringing, or shucking something. Feed the hulls to the neighbor's pig because she'll save a ham for us. 1. How to do everything without money. Laundry gets done in the sink. Walking is cheaper than the bus. A shower is cheaper than TP. Torn clothes can be mended. 2. Money isn't everything. 3. Giving when you have extra is the best way to stay afloat in times of need. Thanks for the gold, guys. How people who have money treat you. I went to a girls only grammar school as I passed the exams to get in. There were girls whose parents wouldn't allow to come to my house. I felt lonely, worthless and isolated a lot of the time. But I got my PhD in the end. So duck you Aaron, Mrs. Brumhead. You have more of a tendency to be generous. I think. I grew up dirt poor with like 2 pieces of clothing to my name and most of our meals came from the food bank or from donations from the church my parents attended. Still, my mom mostly would not hesitate to help someone worse off than us. Also, you learn how to have fun for free. Kid me thought that getting to use the free desktop computers at the library and going to the park were the best things ever. Marriage and ramen tastes better than us in ramen. Having to help your single mum earn money by doing odd jobs that involved being embarrassed because you were cleaning the houses of your schoolmates. Delivering junk mail to their homes. Buying things on the cheap from garage sales that end up being their homes. Collecting things people put out for hard rubbish council collection on the street etc. I had a chair that belonged to an older boy's family. And every couch we have had was off the street. Mum also used to go to open houses when she was dreaming about being able to move to a better place. And one time I discovered I was inside the room of a boy from my grade. Saw his picture on his desk lol. The other time I was really embarrassed was when I had offered a girl in a younger grade a lift home. We had to do Tetris to fit her in the car. There were 20 plus packs of 36 roll toilet paper Mum had gotten on a massive sale from a factory outlet because they had packaging damage was squashed. We were 3 girls and Mum in the house. We went through a lot of loo roll lol. How to cook with broke people sheet. Ramen plus seasonings and hot sauce. Bread and honey or syrup. I used to take cinnamon, sugar, and some white bread with butter if we had it and make snacks for my little brother. Regular sheet most people would just go and buy, we had to make or find a way to get close to it. How to get the most out of food. My mum grew up poor with 6 siblings and nothing went to waste. People are awful to you if they know you don't have money. You are never invited anywhere. No one talks to you. And you couldn't believe the things people say and assume about you. People thought my whole family was on meth or heroin because I never had spending money or the newest shoes. Like, People are absolutely vicious if they can find a reason to think they're above you somehow. Witness to the adage, how much you really do have. Major fire wiped out several $100 million homes. Heat generated left rubble of 2-story homes only feet high. Families devastated. I still see the face of one man so completely shattered. I wondered if he would live to be able to rebuild. I later was in the command post area when I was approached by a young girl and her father. The dad couldn't speak English, so the girl would translate. My family wants to know if this is where we can bring donations for the people whose houses burned down. To my working knowledge, none had been established at that point. Her father talks. She translates. Can we leave it here? Many roads are being closed, and we're not familiar with this part of town. I walk with them to their car. A much older beater. The mom and a couple of siblings in it. Dad opens the trunk. And together, we all bring out couple cases of water. Canned and dry food. Adult and child clothing. Some used toys. And prepared food. Almost listed when each kid handed me their toys. Little girl, we have so much stuff and we want to share with those families. Lying to social services because your parents are working and collecting unemployment. Thanks Reddit. I am now dying inside. How hard it can be to get out of poverty. When you get home and see a yellow notice hanging off your door, you ducked. It's always on a Friday to say you're out of luck until Monday. That only people who have money say that it can't buy happiness. That you can reheat just about everything with a decent pot and a working stove. The one thing I don't know from growing up poor is how the ducker dishwasher works. You learn to be very flexible with your needs and wants. Want some dessert? You make your own rice pudding at home. Have relatives coming over? You all sleep on the floor together because you don't have extra beds. Want new clothes for a Barbie? You learn to stitch your own clothes. You learn about sliced bread spread with margarine and sprinkled with sugar as a sweet treat. How to unfreeze copper water pipes with a blow dryer and then how to use a soldering iron to fix the split in the pipe. How to boil down snow so you have the ability to have water to wash up with when the above mentioned task is unsuccessful. Getting hand-me-downs that are too old to be cool and not old enough to be retro. How spoiled and sheltered many people actually are. A guy I knew wrecked his Mustang on purpose because it was black and he wanted red. A girl tossed her completely fine phone in the toilet because her mom was buying her a new one that day. To the above. Walking everywhere under 3 miles, about an hour's walk. Lending, giving your parents money. From high school onwards. No culture of gifts, not necessarily a bad thing. If you want anything, you get a job and buy it. Christmas presents are usually cookies or alcohol. Eating out isn't fun. This one's kinda sad, but I'm more of an eat to live kinda guy, so I'm not too bothered. I don't think I've ever had an enjoyable meal out. Moaning about the small portion sizes. Feeling guilty for getting drinks. Arguments over the bill. I don't like eating out and I don't think I ever will. No big deal though. I like home cooked. Having to say no to a lot of opportunities. I was accepted in a great university program, but even if I had worked full time and took lots of loans, I couldn't afford it. My parents were devastated for me. So I told them I was choosing to go to a cheaper local university that had almost the same program. That was a lie. 20+ years later, they still don't know the truth. In HS I also told them I didn't want to go most school events and special trips. That got me isolated from the other kids. Teachers probably thought I was asocial, but I was mostly ashamed. How amazing reliable transportation is. Carrying a hammer to hit the starter and a jug of water in case it needs more coolant.